At the restaurant, a renowned black CEO seamlessly blends into the bustling crowd, observing his establishment as if he were a mere outsider. But the moment two troubled boys enter, their hushed yet furious accusations slice through the ambient chatter. They hold him responsible for their mother's downfall. As buried regrets and old wounds resurface, he is forced to confront a past he thought he had left behind. What he doesn't realize is that the truth won't just tarnish his name. It could unravel everything he has worked for. Raindrops pattered softly against the windows of Walker's table, its golden light spilling onto the hushed street. Inside, the restaurant pulsed with life. Silverware chimed against porcelain. Muffled laughter wove through conversations, and the air carried the rich aroma of garlic and slow-roasted herbs. It was a sanctuary of refinement and warmth, the crowning achievement of Jordan Walker, a black chef whose relentless drive had elevated it to one of the city's most coveted dining experiences. Seated discreetly in a corner booth, Jordan kept his cap low, his hoodie shielding the sharp angles of his face. With a slight tilt of the brim, he surveyed the room. His restaurant flourished, critics raved, yet something felt amiss. The soul of Walker's table, its essence, seemed to be slipping from his grasp. So tonight, he wasn't here as the celebrated chef-owner. No accolades, no special treatment. Just another diner, melting into the background, searching for the truth. A waitress approached, expertly balancing a tray of drinks. She offered a courteous, yet detached smile, the kind perfected over countless shifts. "Good evening. Can I start you off with something to drink?" "Just water, thanks," Jordan murmured, keeping his voice low to avoid recognition. "And, give me a few minutes with the menu." With a nod, she vanished into the lively throng. Jordan glanced at the menu, though he knew every dish by heart. But tonight wasn't about the food. Tonight was about paying attention. He let the steady hum of voices swirl around him, catching fragments of chatter, praise for the entrees, debates over dessert. Everything felt routine until he heard it. "They say he comes here," a hushed voice murmured from the booth behind him. The speaker was a boy, no older than 13, his words laced with urgency. Jordan's senses sharpened. He kept his gaze fixed on the menu, feigning disinterest, but his mind had already locked onto the conversation. "I don't know," another voice responded, deeper but still young. "Mom said this is the place. She said it's his fault everything fell apart." Jordan stiffened. "His fault?" The first boy spoke again, softer this time. "What if we get caught? We're not even supposed to be here." "We won't," the second boy shot back. "We just need to see him, to see the guy who ruined Mom's life." Jordan's pulse hammered. The words hit like a gut punch, sharp, unexpected. Who were they talking about? And why was their anger so raw, so certain? Stealing a quick glance, he spotted them, a pair of boys huddled in the booth. The nervous one wore a faded hoodie, his curly hair poking out from beneath it. The other, slightly taller, exuded quiet, confidence, his baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. They didn't belong here, shifting in their seats, glancing around as if bracing for someone to kick them out. His thoughts raced. Could they mean him? He prided himself on fairness, on integrity. He had never knowingly harmed anyone, much less a mother and her children. But had his ambition blinded him to unintended consequences? Before he could dig deeper into the thought, the waitress returned, setting his water down with a bright smile. "Ready to order?" Jordan blinked, struggling to focus. Yeah, I'll have the house special." "Great choice." She jotted it down and disappeared again, but Jordan barely heard her. His eyes flicked back to the boys, their heads bent close, whispering. "Mom said he wouldn't hide," the one in the cap muttered. "She said we'd know him when we saw him." Jordan swallowed hard. They were searching for someone they believed had shattered their lives. And from the way their gazes darted, their hushed voices charged with emotion, he couldn't shake the growing suspicion that they meant him. His undercover visit was no longer just about watching his restaurant from the shadows. It had just become personal. As the rain continued its soft rhythm against the glass, one thought gripped him. He needed answers. The background noise dulled, silverware clinking, conversations murmuring. But Jordan barely noticed. His focus stayed locked on the boys behind him, their words looping in his head. He ruined her life. He tried to shake the uneasy weight, settling in his chest, but it refused to budge. As the waitress passed again, he raised a hand, keeping his tone casual. "Hey," he said, "those two boys. Over there, do they come here often?" The waitress followed his gaze, then shook her head. "Never seen them before," she replied. "Why? Are they bothering you?" Jordan quickly shook his head. "No, just curious." She shrugged and moved on, leaving him with more questions than answers. Who were these boys? What did they believe he had done? And, more unsettling, were they right? His stomach tightened. He had built his career on fairness and integrity, but now a gnawing doubt took hold. Had he overlooked something, or someone, on his climb to the top? Setting his glass down, he exhaled slowly, then stood. He approached their booth with careful steps, keeping his hands in his pockets, his posture open, non-threatening. The boys noticed immediately. The one in the hoodie, nervous, smaller, stiffened, eyes darting around as if searching for an escape. The other, wearing a cap pulled low, didn't flinch. He met Jordan's gaze and held it. "Hey," Jordan said with a small, easy smile. "I couldn't help but overhear. Sounds like you're looking for someone." The boy in the cap leaned forward, defensive. "What's it to you?" Jordan raised his hands in a placating gesture. "Nothing. Just thought I could help. I know most people who come through here." The smaller boy shot his friend an uneasy glance, but the one in the cap didn't budge. "We don't need your help," he said sharply. Jordan nodded, about to step away, when the nervous boy leaned in, squinting at him. His expression shifted, suspicion giving way to something closer to recognition. "Wait a second," he murmured. "You're him, aren't you?" Jordan stilled. "I'm sorry." The boy's voice grew louder, thick with anger. "You're Jordan Walker." A weight dropped in Jordan's gut. There was no point denying it. "Yeah," he said carefully. "That's me." The smaller boy's eyes went wide. "It's him." "Yeah," the other snapped, his tone turning cold. "It's him." Jordan swallowed, keeping his voice calm. "I don't know what this is about, but maybe we can talk." "You ruined her life," the boy in the hoodie cut in, his voice raw, shaking. Jordan blinked. "What?" "Our mom," the boy said. "Angela Carter. You know her, don't you?" The name hit like a gut punch. Angela Carter. He hadn't heard it in years, but the memories came flooding back. Late nights in the kitchen, brainstorming menus, pushing creative limits. She had been a chef, talented, ambitious. And then, one day, she was gone. Jordan's voice dropped. "Angela Carter, she worked here." "Worked here?" The boy scoffed. "She built this place. She gave you everything. Her ideas, her recipes. And you took it all." His voice shook with fury. "You stole from her, and left her with nothing." Jordan's head spun. "That's not true." "Yes, it is," the boy shot back, his voice edged with anger. "She told us how you took credit for her recipes. And when she tried to fight for herself, you ruined her name. No one would hire her after she left." The second boy, quieter but just as furious, added, "You didn't just take her career. You wrecked it. She had to start over. That's why we live like this now. Because of you." Jordan opened his mouth, but no words came. Had he really done that? Had his ambition been so consuming that he crushed someone else's future without even realizing it? "I need to talk to her," he finally said, his voice firm despite the turmoil in his chest. "Please, let me speak to your mom." The boys hesitated, exchanging cautious glances. "She's not here," the older one said, his tone unyielding. "But if you really want the truth, you'll have to come see us." Jordan's jaw tightened. "Tell me where." The boy grabbed a napkin and scribbled down an address, pushing it toward him. Jordan picked it up, his thoughts racing. The weight of their words, the rawness of their pain. This wasn't something he could brush aside. As he left the restaurant that night, gripping the napkin tightly, one thing was clear. He couldn't ignore this. He had to face Angela Carter. underscore 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 underscore. Jordan stood outside a worn apartment complex, his hands clenched at his sides. The rain had eased, but the damp air still hung thick, making the night feel even heavier. He checked the address on a napkin. This was it. For the first time in years, the composed, self-assured businessman he had become felt like a mask he couldn't wear. Right now, he wasn't celebrated chef, the name behind a prestigious restaurant. He was just a man who might have ruined a woman's life, and hadn't even realized it. The door creaked open. Malik stood in the doorway, his expression guarded. You actually came. Jordan nodded. I need to see her. Malik hesitated before stepping aside. She's in the living room. Jordan stepped inside, scanning the modest space. The walls were lined with framed photographs, each one telling a story of love and resilience. The furniture was worn but well-maintained, carrying a sense of care. His chest tightened. Angela Carter sat on the couch, dark strands of hair, now streaked with gray. Her face was unreadable, but when she looked up, her eyes flashed with recognition, then narrowed. Jordan Walker. Her voice was cold. Didn't expect you to show up. Jordan swallowed. Angela. Her arms folded across her chest. What do you want? His pulse pounded, but he kept his voice steady. I need to know the truth. He took a small step forward, but kept his distance. Your boys, they told me what you said, that I destroyed your career. I need to hear it from you. Angela slowly stood, her arms still crossed. Now you want to hear it? Bitterness laced every word. After all these years, you suddenly care? Yes. Jordan's voice was quiet but firm. Because if I did what they say, if I stole from you, if I left you with nothing, then I need to own it. He hesitated. And if I didn't, then I need to understand what went wrong. Angela's expression darkened. You want to know what went wrong? Her voice rose. You stole from me, Jordan. My recipes, my ideas, everything I created in that kitchen. You took them and put your name on them. Jordan's brow furrowed. That's not how I remember it. Angela let out a sharp laugh, void of humor. Of course it isn't, she shot back. Because you didn't have to remember. You were too busy taking all the credit while I faded into the background. Jordan started to object, but stopped. Because the memories were coming back. Late nights in the kitchen, their whispered brainstorming sessions. The gleam in her eyes when she introduced something new. The frustration in her voice when articles credited him alone for dishes they had created together. Back then, he hadn't questioned it. He was the face of the restaurant, after all. But standing here, hearing it from her, he saw it differently. He saw her. Jordan exhaled, his voice softer now. Angela, I never meant to take credit for your work. I thought we were a team. I thought. Angela's eyes burned with years of resentment. You thought what, Jordan? Angela let out a slow breath, her arms still crossed as if holding herself together. And what exactly do you think you can do to make it right, Jordan? Her voice was quieter now, but no less sharp. You can't give me back those years. You can't erase what happened. Jordan exhaled, running a hand over his face. No, I can't. But I can make sure your talent gets the recognition it always deserved. I can help now if you'll let me. Angela scoffed, shaking her head. Help? How? By giving me a pity job in your empire? Jordan frowned. Not a pity job. A partnership. The words surprised even him, but as soon as he said them, he knew they were right. I don't just want to fix the past. I want to work with you again as equals. Your food, your name, your legacy. This time, the credit goes where it belongs. Angela stared at him, her expression unreadable. Malik and his younger brother exchanged glances, uncertain. The room felt impossibly still, the weight of the moment pressing in from all sides. Finally, Angela spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. You really mean that? Jordan nodded, his jaw tight with determination. Yes, and not just for you. For them. He glanced at her sons. They deserve to see the truth, that their mother is one of the greatest chefs this city has ever seen. For the first time, Angela's hardened expression cracked, the smallest flicker of something. Hope, maybe, crossing her face. She studied Jordan for a long moment, then let out a breath. I'll think about it. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a start. The two boys in the booth behind him. Every instinct told him to approach, to demand answers, but he knew better. If he startled them, they might run, and he'd lose his chance to understand what was really going on. Instead, he forced himself to stay still, his fingers curling around the edge of his glass as he listened. You really think he'll talk to us? The boy in the hoodie asked, his voice laced with doubt. The one in the cap hesitated. Mom said he's the reason everything went wrong. If that's true, then he owes us at least that much. Jordan's stomach twisted. Their words carried a weight that couldn't be ignored. He had built his reputation on hard work and talent, at least. That's what he had always believed. But what if there was another side to the story, one he had never considered? The waitress returned with his plate, but he barely registered it. His appetite had vanished. Instead, he reached for his water, taking a slow sip as he tried to steady himself. He had come here tonight to reconnect with his restaurant, to see it through fresh eyes. Instead, he was being forced to confront a past mistake he hadn't even realized he had made. The boy in the hoodie sighed. And if he won't listen? The other boy's voice hardened. Then we make him. Jordan exhaled, setting his glass down carefully. It was clear now, this wasn't a misunderstanding. These boys weren't just passing through. They had come looking for him. And whether he was ready or not, he was about to find out why. For people in the industry, he said carefully, watching their reactions. If someone hurt your mom, maybe I can point you in the right direction. The boy in the hoodie shifted uncomfortably, his fingers gripping the edge of the table. The one in the cap wasn't so easily shaken. His jaw tightened, and when he spoke, his voice was sharp. You already know who we're talking about. Jordan's heart pounded. The certainty in the boy's words sent a chill through him. They weren't here for vague answers. They had come looking for justice. I'm not sure that I do, Jordan said slowly, though the weight in his chest suggested otherwise. Why don't you tell me? The boy in the hoodie finally found his voice. Our mom, he said, his voice quieter than before. Angela Carter. Jordan inhaled sharply, the name hitting him like a slap. Angela. He hadn't heard that name in years. His mind reeled, memories rushing back, late nights in the kitchen, shared ambitions, laughter, tension, arguments. Then, suddenly, she was gone. And now, standing before her sons, he was being forced to face whatever came next. Angela Carter, he repeated, almost to himself. His throat felt tight. Where is she now? The boys exchanged a glance before the one in the cap answered. You want to know? His eyes darkened. Then come see for yourself. Still hard, but there was a flicker of uncertainty beneath it. But if you really want to know the truth, you'll have to come see us. Jordan nodded, his jaw tightening. Tell me where. The boy in the cap studied him for a long moment, then reached for a napkin from the table. He pulled a pen from his pocket and scribbled an address before sliding it across the table. Jordan picked it up, his eyes scanning the hastily written words. His mind spun. The anger in their voices, the pain in their words. It wasn't something he could ignore. He hadn't thought about Angela Carter in years, but now, her name was all he could hear. Had he really left her with nothing? Had his success come at the cost of someone else's ruin? The restaurant around him suddenly felt too loud, too bright, too suffocating. He clenched the napkin in his fist and stood. When, he asked, his voice firm. Tomorrow night, the boy in the hoodie said, his expression wary but determined. Come alone. Jordan nodded once. As he stepped away from the table, napkin still tight in his grip, he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't hide from this. He had to face Angela Carter, and he had to face the truth. For stepped inside, his gaze sweeping over the modest apartment. The space was small but well kept, with worn furniture and framed photos lining the walls. The scent of something warm and familiar lingered in the air, spices, slow-cooked meals, memories. Angela Carter sat on the couch, her dark hair streaked with gray, her expression unreadable. At the sight of him, her eyes widened slightly before narrowing into something guarded, something sharp. "Jordan Walker," she said, her voice cool, clipped. "Didn't expect to see you here." Jordan swallowed, suddenly aware of the tightness in his chest. "Angela." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "What do you want?" He took a step closer, but not too close. He knew better than to push. "I need to know the truth," he said, his voice quieter now. "Your boys, they told me what you said, that I ruined your career." He hesitated. "I need to hear it from you." Angela stood, crossing her arms. "You need to hear it? After all these years, you suddenly care?" Bitterness laced her words, cutting deep. "Yes," Jordan said, steady but soft. "Because if I did what they said, if I hurt you like that, then I need to own it. And if I didn't," his voice wavered for the first time, "then I need to understand what went wrong." Angela's eyes flashed with something. Anger, pain, years of something unsaid. She let out a breath, shaking her head. "You want to know what went wrong, Jordan?" Her voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of everything she'd held in for years. "You stole from me. You stole from me. Them. Do you know how many interviews I watched you give, talking about your vision and your creativity, while I sat in the shadows?" Jordan's stomach sank. He hadn't thought of it like that. But the truth was, he hadn't thought of her at all. Not after she left. "I didn't blacklist you," he said, almost pleading now. "I swear I didn't." Angela's expression softened, but only slightly. "Maybe you didn't," she admitted. "But someone did. After I left, no one would hire me. I tried every restaurant in the city, and every door slammed in my face. Whether you meant to or not, Jordan, your name had power. And when I walked away from your kitchen, it felt like I walked away from the entire industry." Jordan's heart sank. He hadn't known. He hadn't realized how far the ripples of his success had spread, or who they might have drowned in the process. "I was young," he said, his voice raw, "ambitious, and I was selfish. I let the restaurant's success blind me to what was happening around me. But I swear to you, Angela, I didn't know what was happening to you. If I had." Angela's eyes glistened, but she quickly looked away. "Well, you didn't," she said flatly. Jordan took a step closer. "I can't change what happened," he said, his voice firm, "but I can try to make it right. I'm sorry, Angela. Truly, I was wrong, and I should have seen it sooner. But I see it now." Angela stared at him for a long moment, the weight of his words hanging between them. From the doorway, Malik and his younger brother watched in silence. And hungry for success. But had he really been blind to the cost? The weight of his choices settled heavy on his chest. He tapped the pen against the desk, staring at the blank page. What could he even write? An apology? A justification? Neither felt enough. Angela was right. Sorry didn't fix years of lost opportunities. A knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. "Come in," he called, expecting his manager or a staff member. But when the door opened, it was Angela. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. "I've thought about it," she said. Jordan set the pen down slowly. "And," Angela exhaled, stepping inside. "I'll come back, but on my terms." Jordan nodded, relief flooding through him. "Name them." Angela's gaze was steady. "Full credit for every dish I create. My own space in the kitchen. And if I ever feel like I'm being pushed aside again, I walk, and you don't stand in my way." "You have my word," Jordan said without hesitation. Angela studied him for a moment, searching for any sign of hesitation or deception. Finally, she nodded. "Then I'll see you tomorrow." She turned to leave, but just before she stepped out, she paused. "This doesn't mean I forgive you," she said quietly. Jordan met her gaze. "I know, but maybe one day you will." Angela didn't respond, but she didn't need to. The fact that she was coming back at all was more than he had dared to hope for. As the door closed behind her, Jordan picked up the pen again. This time, when he looked at the blank page, he didn't feel stuck. He felt ready. Kitchen, where the familiar clang of pots and the rhythmic chopping of knives filled the air. The staff paused, their eyes flicking between Jordan and Angela, sensing the weight of the moment. Jordan cleared his throat. "Everyone, this is Angela Carter. She'll be working alongside me as co-chef." A murmur spread through the kitchen. Some nodded in recognition, others in curiosity. Angela squared her shoulders. "I'm not here to step on toes," she said, her voice even but firm. "I just want to cook." One of the sous chefs, a younger woman, smiled. "Welcome back." Angela blinked, caught off guard by the words. She hadn't expected warmth. She nodded in return. "Thanks." Jordan handed her a chef's coat. "Your station is ready." Angela took it, her fingers brushing over the embroidered name, Chef Carter. She looked at Jordan then, her expression unreadable. "Let's see if you meant what you said." Jordan met her gaze without hesitation. "I did." Angela turned, tied on her apron, and stepped into the kitchen as if she'd never left. And just like that, Walker's table had two chefs at its helm. Smile tugged at the corners of Angela's lips, a mix of appreciation and quiet pride. She glanced at him, her voice a little softer than before. "I guess we both needed that chance." Their work together in the kitchen was no longer a battle of egos, but a true partnership, a balance of strengths. Angela's bold, inventive dishes found a new home in Walker's table, while Jordan's polished technique and understanding of the business kept the restaurant thriving. It was clear to everyone that something real had been rebuilt, not just in the kitchen, but between them as well. As the weeks passed, the restaurant's buzz only grew louder. Angela's influence was undeniable, and with every dish they created together, the shadow of their past began to fade. Critics who had once doubted the restaurant's ability to evolve now heralded it as one of the most exciting places in the city. The lines between the chefs blurred, and in the eyes of their staff and customers, Walker's table wasn't just Jordan's anymore. It was theirs. One evening, after a particularly successful service, Jordan found himself standing in the kitchen doorway, watching Angela and Malik work side by side. The younger boy's hands were quick, learning, improving under Angela's sharp but encouraging guidance. Jordan couldn't help but smile to himself. This was more than a second chance. It was a new beginning for all of them. Angela caught his gaze and gave him a small nod, one that spoke volumes. For the first time in a long time, Jordan felt like he was exactly where he was meant to be. And as the dinner service wound down, the familiar hum of the restaurant felt different now, fuller, warmer, and far more genuine than before. It wasn't just the food that had evolved. The heart of the restaurant had been restored. For Minnie, before continuing, her fingers fiddling with the strap of her apron. "I'm still not sure if I can fully trust you again, but I see the effort you're making, and I think I can respect that." Jordan nodded, his expression sincere. "I don't expect you to forget what happened or forgive me right away, but I promise I won't stop trying to earn that trust." Angela met his gaze, her eyes softer now. "We'll see," she said, her voice quiet but not unkind. "But I think we might be able to make this work." The tension between them that had once felt so thick and insurmountable began to loosen. They weren't just co-chefs anymore. They were collaborators, equals, each respecting the other's vision and contribution. It wasn't perfect, and it would never be without its challenges, but for the first time, it felt like they were truly working together, not just as a means of survival, but for something they both cared deeply about. As they left the kitchen that night, the restaurant's glow still spilling out onto the quiet street, Jordan couldn't help but feel the weight of the years he had lost. But with Angela by his side and the team they were rebuilding, he felt a quiet sense of hope for the future. There was no quick fix for everything that had come before, but together, they were creating something that was built to last. And that, he realized, was what truly mattered, was met with eager anticipation. The critics who had once scrutinized every move Jordan made were now looking at the restaurant through a new lens. They could sense the change, the harmony between the two chefs, the evolution of the dishes, and the quiet but undeniable power of their collaboration. The night of the tasting event, the restaurant buzzed with excitement. The plates that left the kitchen were a reflection of both Jordan and Angela's skills, the balance of their creative forces evident in every bite. The critics were impressed, but more importantly, the staff could see it too. The energy in the kitchen had shifted. It wasn't just about impressing the diners anymore. It was about creating something meaningful, something that came from a place of respect and mutual understanding. Angela, still a bit reserved, but no longer the shadow of the past, moved with a newfound confidence. As she plated the final dish for a VIP table, she caught Jordan's eye. He gave her a small, encouraging nod, and for a brief moment, she allowed herself to smile. This was her kitchen, too. She wasn't just part of the team. She was shaping its future. As the event wrapped up and the guests filtered out, the room buzzed with positive energy. Angela and Jordan stood together, looking over the successful night. "We did it," Angela said quietly, more to herself than to Jordan. Jordan glanced at her, a genuine smile on his face. "We did, and we'll keep doing it." With the night's success, the trust between them solidified even further. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was built on effort, on understanding, and on the shared goal of making something exceptional together. For the first time in years, Jordan felt like Walker's Table was exactly where it needed to be, a place of growth, redemption, and collaboration. And for Angela, it was more than just the dishes on the menu. It was about telling her story, one dish at a time. For Minnie, as the dinner rush slowed, Jordan noticed Angela standing by the window, her eyes scanning the bustling dining room. He approached her, a quiet understanding between them. "How's it feel?" he asked, his voice low but sincere. Angela glanced at him, then back at the room. "It's different," she said, her voice a little softer than usual, but in a good way. "I never thought I'd feel this way again." Jordan smiled, recognizing the weight of her words. "You've earned this. All of it." Angela gave a small nod, her lips curling into the faintest of smiles. "And you're not so bad at giving second chances either." Malik and Ethan had become regulars at the restaurant, each finding their own place in the rhythm of things. Malik's passion for food was evident, and he worked tirelessly in the kitchen, asking questions, learning from the chefs, and slowly gaining respect from the team. Ethan, quieter but equally eager, had found his role at the host stand, his natural charm making him a hit with customers. One evening, as Jordan watched Malik and Ethan in the kitchen, working side by side with Angela, he realized how much had changed. The restaurant was no longer just about business. It was about family, about rebuilding what had once been broken and finding strength in the process. Angela, once so focused on proving herself, now seemed to take genuine pleasure in seeing her sons find their place at Walker's Table. The restaurant wasn't just a business, it was a legacy, and it was growing into something more than either of them had ever imagined. As the months passed, the story of Walker's Table, once defined by its success and the ambitions of a single man, had evolved into one of partnership, redemption, and the power of second chances. And for the first time, Jordan truly believed that they were building something that would last, not just for them, but for everyone who walked through the restaurant's doors. Jordan stepped outside into the crisp night air, inhaling deeply as the hum of the city wrapped around him. The neon glow of Walker's Table reflected off the slick pavement, a pulsing reminder of how far he had come, not just as a chef, but as a person. For years, he had chased success, believing it was measured in awards, glowing reviews, and a name that carried weight. But now, as Angela's laughter drifted from the kitchen and Malik joked with the staff inside, he understood the truth. Success wasn't about standing alone at the top. It was about who stood beside you. He glanced back at the restaurant, at the place they had rebuilt together. It wasn't just his anymore. It belonged to all of them. To Angela, reclaiming her legacy. To Malik and Ethan, discovering their own futures. To the team, stronger than ever. And to the people who walked through those doors each night, eager for something more than just a meal. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new recipes, and new lessons. But for the first time in a long time, Jordan wasn't afraid of what lay ahead. With a small, knowing smile, he turned and walked away from the restaurant, ready to face whatever came next.